Has the CBRM already lost the extra $15 million that Premier Houston directed to us in increased equalization transfer in his first year? And if so, who's accountable? Hi, I'm Joe Ward of Boxer Shorts Media, and I can tell you that it's absolutely vital that the CBRM keeps that increased transfer of $15 million or more. With property taxes among the very highest in Canada, we have no wiggle room whatsoever here. However, I find it tremendously concerning that the CBRM Mayor and Council and executives are referencing the status as though it were complete unknown. The impression that they give me is that they're just waiting on the province to lead negotiations on a new arrangement that will involve the funding formula and all the stipulations on how that money can be allocated.
Specifically, it was intentionally not intended to be relied on to fund operating costs because there was so much uncertainty on whether or not we were going to continue to receive this funding going forward. And there still is a lot of uncertainty on that. We haven't heard from the province one way or another where the direction of that formula is going to go and where we're going to land from a funding agreement.
But letting someone else run the show is an unacceptable level of risk to take for us. Premier Houston has a finance background, but he was able to make what was called a good faith offer to the CBRM during his campaign to become the leader of the Nova Scotia PC party. Now, while Cecil Clark declared it irresponsible to offer $15 million, while also serving as our mayor when saying that, the clear inference should be that Houston justified the amount when determining the pledge. He didn't just pull it out of thin air. If it was that easy for Houston to understand that we needed more money, then it's just as easy for him to understand that the need continues whether the work is completed on the new funding structure or not. What evidence is there that anything has changed in that regard? The impression the CBRM is giving, in my view, is that there's a far higher level of uncertainty than there really should be. As the leader of the second largest municipality in this province, Mayor McDougall should have direct access to the Premier to discuss this matter. In fact, as a member of the Cape Breton Voices group of prominent women leaders, the Mayor also has a direct connection to Houston's Chief of Staff, Nicole Lafosse, who is also a member of that group. There's simply no excuse for the Mayor not to already have the Premier's ear to gain reassurance that this money will be renewed each year until the new structure is in place. Of course, it's also possible that the CBRM has information that they aren't ready to disclose, just as we saw when a councillor preemptively revealed that the old courthouse at Wentworth Park is now a leading option for the location of the new CBRM library. Do they actually know more about the $15 million renewal or cancellation than they're ready to let on? Keep in mind, with the recent 5% property tax rate reduction, the entire council is now facing the risk of having to increase the rates again next year if the $15 million doesn't come through. And that risk for them politically is good for all of us, because now they have to get more motivated than they might otherwise have been to make sure that we don't lose it, because if we lose it, many of them can lose elections. I think the two people in the CBRM that are in the hot seat are Mayor McDougall and MLA for Glace Bay John White. It's the mayor's responsibility to make sure that this is a priority and secure that money. However, John White and his supporters simply could not be outworked in their support for Houston from the time he ran for leadership of the NSPC party until the time he was elected. And much of their support for Houston was related to that $15 million offer he made. White is going to have the inside scoop, like his colleague Comer, on what Houston has in mind for the $15 million. And in turning Glace Bay over to the NSPC, I think he should have earned himself some pull. Of course, there is a chance that he and Comer just aren't staying in the loop, but that's a bit hard to believe and would represent negligent leadership on their part. White and Comer will both be tested in a big way should the Houston government decide to pull the plug on that $15 million for next year. If that happens and they make excuses for their leader at the expense of our community, it will almost certainly adversely affect the level of support they get the next time we go to the ballot box. Comer is reasonably secure in his constituency. White works immensely hard and has a strong team, but he's still vulnerable depending on the mix of candidates in the next go-around. I contacted MLA White to ask about the status of the $15 million. He seems to be taking a wait-and-see approach as well, and although he was willing to respond, he also refused to partake in what he called speculation when I asked what he'd do if Houston decides to pull the plug. I know John's a great community man with a great team, but it looks like he may have a trial by fire in the future if Houston makes a decision that adversely impacts the CBRM, and John's loyalties are tested in a partisan environment. In many cases, it's not that politicians are worried about speculating, it's that they're worried about making any commitments that might later require them to push back against their own party. But if we begin to expect politics as usual from an NSPC member, The bigger burden shifts to Mayor McDougall. Municipal mayors have their political leanings, of course, but they do not represent political parties in their roles. In theory, that means the only team the mayor will be expected to represent is the CBRM. And if she and her administration drop the ball in it, then McDougall will get the lion's share of the political fallout. But let's take a pause here. 15 million isn't a large amount of money for the province to come up with. That means they should be able to find it very quickly when the time comes. There's no confirmation that we've lost it yet with full certainty. So what's the message to the CBRM mayor, council, and administration here? Folks, please get to work. Do not make the mistake of accepting that $15 million as a one-time deal or accepting that it won't be renewed until a new funding structure is in place. Let the mayor use her connection to the Premier's office to gain assurance that the $15 million is here to stay, and we'll figure out the rest later. And then pull John White and Brian Comer into the mayor's office and make sure they're on board with making it a top priority to convey to both the Premier and the minister handling that file. The $15 million must be renewed without fail. So let's have Mayor and Council question MLAs Comer and White during an open session of Council and let the public see what they have to say about it. If you all can't collaborate and secure it, then there's certainly a very tangible, quantifiable number to put on what you've all cost us by not doing so. Don't wait. Get the confirmation now. This cannot be put together last minute the way the property tax cut was handled during the budget sessions. To get notified of all episodes of Boxer Shorts Media and segments called Quick Questions and Feet Meet Fire, please remember to subscribe on your choice of YouTube or Facebook.
Please hang up and try again.